scrapping of masks have been growing following changes made to adjust the level 1 regulations in the country. That's to do with COVID-19, but experts are warning that mandatory wearing of masks in public should remain in place because South Africa is not out of the woods just yet. To talk more about this, we're joined tonight by Epidemiologist Dr Jo Barnes. Dr. Barnes, a very good evening to you. Welcome to News at Prime. Is it really too soon for us to stop wearing masks in public?
Good evening to you and to your listeners. I was so relieved when I heard the announcement by the minister that they're going to keep masks, because masks can be irritating to some people, but it is the least intrusive and the most affordable protection that you can have. We are certainly not out of the woods yet. The Omicron subvariant BA.2 only made up 4% of the diagnoses in December. It is up to 20% in January. So this new subvariant is actually an even better spreader than the original Omicron that we had. We do not know whether it causes worse disease, hopefully not, but we are certainly not, even for the present stuff that we've got, we can't be sure that we are out of the woods. And I would really plead with people, even if you find it irritating, to wear a mask, because it's not only about protecting the people around you, if you don't care about that, but it's protecting your job and the jobs of others in your family and in your circle of friends. So we at the moment can't do without that.
But how helpful are masks, Dr. Barnes, given that in most settings, well, not say most, but in a lot of settings, people wear masks and then they wear a mask, I beg your pardon, and then take it off once they're inside a restaurant, in a club, or are with friends?
Indeed, they do, and of course one can't eat with a mask on. So those are the times when spreading is going to happen anyway. But if you keep it on wherever you possibly can, you will greatly reduce your risk. I'm sitting in front of me with a preprint of an article that is supposed to come out soon that has found that the first one I know, that they infected people directly with the virus, and they found that one exposure to one nasal droplet is enough to make people ill. So this virus is not comparable to the flu at all. And it is very, very sly in the way that it spreads around. So for the sake of wearing a mask, you're really going to help protect yourself. And as I said, even if you're not worried about other people's well-being, at least worry about your job.
You've said more than once now that we're not out of the woods yet. And that raises the question of what out of the woods would look like in a South African context when you look at other countries in the world. For example, I believe it was Denmark this week that scrapped all COVID-19 regulations, even though they are still seeing some degree of infection.
Don't forget that that's, in a way, I understand why you say that, but in a way not a good comparison. Denmark has got over 80% of their people vaccinated. Our rate of full vaccination is way below that. And the groups that are now the most vulnerable are the youth, the young school-going children, and the young people up to roughly the age of 30 or 35. They are falling ill now. I suppose it's not coincidental that they were the last in line to be offered vaccines, but they are also very resistant to vaccines. So I'm really concerned that we don't have the high control that other affluent countries in the Northern Hemisphere have got, and that they can let it go. I understand people are weary, they are tired of this, but if the fifth wave is predicted to reach us by May, that's not a long way off.
And Dr. Barnes, one of the other comments that's been made in the global debate, because it is a global debate at this point about whether it's time for governments to allow people to walk around without a mask, has been around the future impact, should there be a more virulent variant down the road, and people then becoming resistant to going back to the wearing of masks. How much do you think that's a possibility?
I'm very concerned that if you take away masks and 3 months later we are in the fifth or four or whatever in the fifth wave, and then you suddenly tell them to put those masks back on, that they are not going to listen. You're going to have a very, very poor compliance with that. And as soon as that happens, because masks and vaccination are the major defenses we have got left. And we are not doing so, as you so rightly pointed out, we're not doing so well in South Africa on either. So I wouldn't like to see that relaxed. And you know, of all the things that you can hate, a mask is really not the worst of them.
Where do you stand on the debate around the fact that we're now dealing with a variant that's killing fewer people, Omicron, and in South Africa's context, in many other countries, we're seeing fewer daily infections reported, and some people saying that that suggests that we're coming to the end of the pandemic phase of COVID. Too soon to call it?
You know, that's a story that I've been hearing since the downslope of the first wave. Then we heard it in the downslope of the second wave. And then it was very loud in the downslope of the third wave. Now it's growing even louder for the fourth wave. And I honestly, if I could predict for you when this is going to end so that we can scrap all of these things, I would be really rich. Because I would sell that information for a very high price. There isn't a person in the world that can tell us. Nobody knew that Omicron is going to come out of the woodwork and hit us so hard. And even though there are fewer deaths, there are still a lot more deaths than even the ordinary seasonal flu. A lot more. So it's not an undangerous thing.
You say not an undangerous thing. Is the comparison between Omicron, Delta, Beta, and the others in terms of virulence helpful in predicting what may come next? Does a quote-unquote weaker variant suggest that what comes thereafter will also be less severe, is what I'm trying to find out?
You know, there's a difference between hope and reality. We all hope that you are right, but nobody can really promise you that. You now had a much more widespread, but not so a clinically serious a version of the virus. We don't know what the next one will look like, whether it will take us up again or whether it will continue to go down. If it continues to go down, I would be the first to say I am so glad that it has happened, but there is no security on that.
And final question, Doctor. Schools are going back full-time, primary, secondary, and special needs schools on Monday going back full-time. What should be top of mind, especially when you consider the environment that some of these kids are not qualified yet or eligible, I should say, for vaccination?
The one thing that I think has been really not given the attention it should is ventilation. Not air conditioning, that's far too expensive, but just ventilation. And letting fresh air in and letting the virus droplets, the aerosol droplets, not build up in that place. We are not unexpectedly seeing an upswing in COVID-19 cases among school children. It was to be expected. Fortunately, the vast majority of them are not serious. But even so, there are some children at risk. The best that I can say is keep a mask on for everybody in the classroom and open the windows and doors so that the air can ventilate.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That's Dr. Jo Barnes speaking to us tonight about the debate that's ongoing in South Africa and other parts of the world about whether it is time for us to stop wearing masks. Dr. Barnes says keep that mask on.